Hey everyone, Duke Nougat 3D back again with another piece from my collection. And today we have my Protivogaz Bezkorobochnyy, if I'm pronouncing that right, or PBF gas mask. Now, the PBF was introduced sometime during the 1970s. If I'm wrong, I'm sure one of our Soviet experts in the comment will correct me. As a lighter, more compact gas mask, supposedly for airborne and to a degree border patrol. At least that's what they were mostly used by, as comparable to the SHM41M, Schlemmmaske style masks. The PBF didn't really replace all that much. I mean, not to say that most new Soviet gas masks replace all previous masks in service immediately, but it really didn't see that much use throughout most branches. In fact, I can hardly find any information on the issuing and usage of these masks other than mostly by airborne and border patrol, supposedly. The PBF was redistributed to quite a big number of Eastern Bloc countries and even some Middle Eastern countries as well. The Georgians use it as their mainstay riot control mask up until recently when it was being replaced by other masks such as the Czech CM6, I believe. Correct me if I'm wrong. And I'm sure a lot of other countries used it as well. The PBF is easily found on the surplus market, and within the Russian military it is currently being phased out of service, and I believe its only usage nowadays is for training, but even that is very limited compared to other masks of the Soviet era, such as the PMG. The PBF, like I said, easily found on the surplus market in either its early white gray rubber or later black rubber type, which I wish I kind of had the black rubber one, but they are typically found as near complete kits for around the $30 to $40 range, just like the PMG, and can sometimes be found even less. The interesting thing about the PBF is that it is a very loose copy of the American M17 mask, to a certain degree. Most notably to the fact that it uses a central elliptical-shaped voice diaphragm and outlet valve assembly, two internal cheek pouch filters, and interestingly, an inner oronasal cup. It might possibly be the very first Soviet gas mask to use an inner oronasal cup, not counting masks such as closed circuit and insulator masks like rebreathers and things of that nature, because those kind of had an oronasal cup by default in the Soviet Union, if not a mouthpiece and nose clip. The PBF was relatively lightweight and compact, and the claim was that it's EO16, I believe. Correct me if I'm wrong. I'm not too brushed up with my Soviet filter designations. The claim was that they could last 24 hours. Or actually, no, I think I've even seen some claims that they could last a week in NBC environments, and I'm not sure. I'm pretty sure that claim is false, but just kind of interesting to note that it's... And I've also heard claims that the filters also contain asbestos as well, and that's kind of... I'm not sure how true that is. I would say it's likely, but I would kind of agree that the risk of contacting asbestos as compared to GP5 and other canisters is a bit higher due to the fact that they are a more loosely built filter, and therefore I would be cautious with these masks. I would say that it would be fine if it was later production, such as possibly 1980s and 90s, but if they were even still producing the PBF in the 1990s for that matter. But as a general rule of thumb, stay cautious with Russian filters. Now, before I ramble on any further and lose track of my thoughts and words, why don't we get down to the actual review itself. The carrier is probably one of the higher quality Russian carriers, made out of a very durable, rugged canvas. Unlike very flimsy carriers in the Russian military, it is reinforced with, I believe, some sort of plastic or cardboard plating. It has two lifted-out style snaps, very rugged shoulder straps similar to the PMG's carrier, and it has as well a thinner waist strap and belt loop. Nothing much on the outside. You do have a pouch right here for the anti-fogging inserts if you were issued a set, or more likely the spare voice membrane set, which I'll get to in a second here. Opening up the carrier, you have some serial and manufacturer stamps on the top flap. Looking inside, you can see a large pouch right here, possibly for some form of decon kit like the IP 88, I believe it was called. I don't quite remember. And this pouch right here, I'm not entirely sure, probably for a waterproofing bag of some sort. Again, my Soviet collectors in the comments will probably correct me if I'm wrong on anything. So be sure to check there, I guess. Carrier is really nice. I would definitely pick a, if you don't want a PBF, but you want a decent but cheap Soviet gas mask carrier as an everyday bag, I would pick up one of these, if not a PMK's carrier, even though I'd like this carrier a little bit more. It's very, very sturdy and reliable for a Soviet gas mask carrier. Moving on to the voice membranes. They come in a tin, obviously marked with M for membrane, or membrana. I don't know what the exact Russian terminology is for membrane. As you can see, it comes with a set of spare voice diaphragms, or membranes as the Russians like to call them. And this set's dated 1987, I believe. Now, enough about all that. Let's move on to the mask itself. Now, unfortunately, my mask does have a little bit of damage to it here and there, but nothing that will hinder the review itself. The mask is obviously a helmet-style mask, and as such, with Soviet designations, the mask is named separately from the entire kit itself. The entire kit is named PBF, while the mask on its own, the face piece, is named SHMB, which is Shlemmaska Bezkorobochnyy. God dang it. Here I go again, forgetting the words I just memorized a minute ago, but I guess just check back in the video if you want to know what SHMB stands for. But SHM is obviously Shlemmaska, due to it being a helmet-style mask, as you can see here. As you can see as well, the cheek filters are very large and protrude out quite a bit. It's kind of counterproductive due to the fact that it is a cheek filter mask, and the whole purpose of those is to be streamlined and lightweight and not get in the way of shouldering a rifle. This is obviously not a design feature with this concept because, again, the cheek filters protrude out quite a bit, earning it the nickname the pig or the hamster or the gorilla mask, as it's often called by troops. The front voice emitter outlet assembly is probably the cheapest of the parts on the mask, if not the inlet valves. Most likely because there used to be a pull tab here to remove this whole assembly, but that has been broken off by some user who owned it before me, unfortunately. So I cannot remove this to show you the inner workings of the voice diaphragm and the outlet valve. I would need a screwdriver to do that, and I don't want to do that on camera right now. On the cheek here, you have a size 2 stamp, and you have a marking of a face piece slot of 202, made in Moscow in the second quarter of 1977. On the other side, you have another size stamp, and you can get a better look at the plastic inlet valve, which are very cheap and hard to remove, unfortunately, so I won't be able to show that off either. You can see the ear pouch of the mask with its 5 thinner holes, you could sort of call them. They're not holes, but they kind of are. They're made of a thinner membrane of the hood. These are not meant to be punched out. I see a lot of people claiming that you're supposed to cut these out, but you're not. You leave those intact. Not that it really damages the protective capabilities of the mask itself. It's just not intended for, like, that's not its intent or purpose to be punched out like that. Otherwise, they probably would have done that at the factory. Speaking of the factory, another interesting detail on my example is this little patch of rubber right here. This is from a factory stress test where they basically measure the amount of force it takes to puncture through the rubber, and interestingly, that unlike most Western companies where they would just select one off the lot and then discard the tested product, they just patch it up and reuse it, which I kind of find amusing. But I will move on to the inside. This will be rather difficult because, unlike most gas masks, it's very hard to flip the skull cap, I guess you could call it, over the front of the mask since there's so much in the way. So I will try to stretch it out to the best of my ability to show you the interior. So here we have the inside of the mask. Hopefully you can see that. You can see the large inwards protruding optical style lenses with their little groove for anti-fog inserts, possibly some form of optical lens, but I have no honest to God clue if that even exists. You can see the inner oronasal cup, which is very unique for a Soviet era mask. The 2 inner oronasal cup valve discs in the back there, or on the sides rather, and throughout the back you can see the very beautifully colored bakelite main valve assembly for the voice diaphragm and the double outlet valves themselves. The nose cup is secured with 2 plastic studs on either side, similarly to the M17, Although this mask also has another rubber stud which goes to the chin piece to hold that in place further. There is a manufacturer's stamp on the side here, if the camera can pick that up. Hopefully it can. It's very faded by now. And that's really about it for the PBF itself. Now, like I said, mine's a size 2, so it's very uncomfortable on me. I fit a Russian size 3, which is a large. But these are very nice masks. They're very fun to fool around with. You just got to be wary about the asbestos risk of the filters. I'm not going to get into filter safety, but just be aware that there is asbestos in the PBF filters, supposedly. This is according to my Russian collector sources. But I'm sure someone will say otherwise in the comments. But anyhow, very comfortable mask, especially with its nose cup. It would be even more comfortable if I could fit it properly. The hood's a bit small on me, as I said. And it's a very, very well-known mask as well. Commonly seen in the Stalker series and just, you know, all that good shit. So I hope you enjoyed. I hope you learned a bit or two. And I hope to see you soon. I'm Duke Nougat 3D, and see you later.